Hello, good morning, everyone. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm having difficulty with this. Um, Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's live. My name is Alima Ade from Nexi Concept Limited. And as we know, it is a culture for us to hold our live session every Wednesday by 12 noon. So I can just wait a bit for others to join. I'm seeing people joining. Pinky, Baby, welcome to the live. I'm seeing Sophia, welcome to the live session. Aniete Oki. I've seen Ebun Akinola. I am Jody, Jodoni1, Posh. Hi Ebun, good afternoon. Thank you. Tuboti, welcome to the live session. I'm seeing Danielle and others. So let's just wait a few minutes. Just 1 minute for others to join the live session. Then we'll begin proper. Today we are going to be discussing a very interesting topic. And I know that this topic is actually the foundation of, the most important question on the minds of all those that are interested in studying abroad. Okay, Babs Olalekan, welcome. Miss Iva, welcome to today's live session. So once it's 12:05, we'll start the session. Adekomi 20, welcome to the live session. Welcome to today's live. So the title of today's live is How much do you need to study abroad? How much do you need to study abroad? Like I mentioned earlier, this is one of the important questions that is always on the minds of those interested in studying abroad. And if this is not the important question on your mind, you should make it the important question, because this forms the foundation and the basis of your study abroad plans. Okay, so we're going to be dissecting the financial implication of 4 different countries today. One of that country is UK, the other is Canada, we have the USA, and we have France, and we have Australia. We won't be talking about USA. I'm seeing your question, Miss Aiva. We won't be talking about the USA today. We're just talking about 4 countries specifically. However, if you want detailed information concerning the USA, you can send a DM and then a counselor will reach out to you and give you a breakdown. But for today, we are concentrating on just 4 countries. All right. Okay, so I'll dive in properly. Okay, so we know that there are lots of changes that have been implemented regarding the finances of different countries. Okay, and most people have shifted their attention or their option from some of the big countries that we have, such as Australia, Canada, and USA, to most of the European countries. So we'll be discussing one of the European countries that we know that most people are fully interested in. Okay, others are still there. You can reach out once if you have further information on those ones. However, for today, we are just discussing 4 countries. So I'll dive in proper and I'll be starting from the UK. Please, before I start, if you have questions for each of the country or for any of the country, please put in the question in the comment section. And once I'm done, I would respond to the question appropriately. Oh, my network is not stable. Sorry, is every other person experiencing this? Can anyone confirm? Anyone else confirm if they can hear me? Oops. Please, can someone confirm if, just send a message in the box that you can hear me or not before I proceed. Oh, yes, your network is not stable. Posh said, I can hear you. Wow. Okay, Ebon, I can hear you. So you're having two. Sure, okay. All right, so I will just have to proceed. Thank you for the confirmation. I can hear you. Okay, thank you so much for the confirmation. Okay. All right, so we'll dive in proper into UK. But your is low. Whoa. Are you serious? Hi guys, can you hear me? Okay, so I'll just be more audible. Thank you for your feedback. So I hope I'm more audible now. Thank you, guys. Okay, so I'll start with the UK. I'm going to start with the tuition fee, actually. You know, when you're looking at studying abroad, first thing you need to consider is the tuition fee for the specific program you're going for. Majority of people that are going to study abroad are interested in two parts, either the undergraduates, the postgraduates, or which includes the masters and the PGD and PhD program. Sorry. So for the undergraduate program, we have a tuition fee range for the UK, for UK schools or UK programs, which include from £10,000 to £26,000. Now for bachelor's program, we have a tuition fee range of £10,000 to £26,000. Now this depends on, for you to get a £10,000 program down to a £26,000 program, it depends on your qualification, your O level, what you have, your scores in your O level will determine if you can get a 10,000 program or down to a £26,000 program. Also for the master's program, we have the tuition fee range of £10,000 to £30,000. We have, sorry, you might see me looking down. I'm trying to not jump any points while having this live session today. Okay, so I'm trying to get my points in order. Okay, so for master's program or for the postgraduate program, we have between £10,000 to £30,000 per year. All of this tuition fee, all of this tuition fee are per year. Now, the next important question on your mind after you've known the tuition fee is to know the initial deposits. Now, the initial deposits are what you need to pay before, once you've gotten your offer. Some schools will have you to pay a particular amount before you even arrive UK, and some would ask you to pay a particular amount here. Then on arrival in UK, you're going to pay another fee. So you need to get these schools. You need to ask questions first to know which of this school, what the school is asking you to pay as initial deposit, and which of this school requires you to pay on enrollment once you arrive the UK. Okay, so now the most important thing you need to know right now is once you've gotten your tuition fee, the next stage is your initial deposit. How much is the initial deposit you need to have? This will help you plan yourself financially. So once you've gotten the initial deposit, like for the UK now, initial deposit is between £2,000. We have £2,000, we have £3,000. There are different schools, and we have up to 50% on enrollment. 50% on enrollment, which means once you're there in the UK, you need to complete the tuition fee, the specific tuition fee on the offer letter. The next stage is once you've gotten your tuition fee paid, once you've gotten your tuition fee, your initial deposit paid, the next financial implication you need to worry about is the living expenses. Now for the UK, the living expenses are divided into two parts. The first part is for those living within London. The other part is for those living outside London. There are different fees. I'm going to tell them today. I'm going to read them out today. So for those interested in living outside London, you're paying £9,207 as your living expenses. You need to have that as your living expenses. Then for those within London, you need to have £12,006 as your living expenses. Like I said, they are divided into two parts, those within London and those outside London. Those within London are paying £12,006, would have £12,006, while those outside London would need to have £9,207. Now, another thing you need to consider is if you're going with dependents. If you're going with dependents, you need to factor in the living expenses for each of this person. Now, if you're going with your spouse, so the fee I just called was for the main applicant. The dependent, which is the next person, will need to have 7,605 if the school is inside London. That's for the dependent. Additional fee 7,605 if the school is within London. Then if it's outside London, you need to have £6,120 if your program is outside London. And this is inclusive of the dependent and the child. So for instance, if I'm going to UK with my husband and let's say 2 children, so I need to factor in, and I'm having my school is within London. So after having £12,006 for myself, I need to have £7,605 for each of the dependents I'll be bringing with me. So you need to factor this in once you're making your plan financially for the UK. Another financial implication, we'll be discussing the major finances here. We'll be discussing the major finances. There are other little finances, but these ones are the major ones you need to consider before you even put in or before you even start the application process. The other part is your proof of funds. Now, the proof of fund is the balance of your tuition fee and your living expenses for a year. Remember that I mentioned that for UK, you need to pay, your initial deposit varies depending on the school. It could be between £2,000 to 50% of the tuition fee. £2,000 to 50% of the tuition fee. So if we are getting you a school and you pay 50% of the tuition fee, the balance of that fee and your living expenses, depending on the location of your college or university, needs to be proven in. You need to have that as a bank statement in your account for a period of 28 days. This is the rule for the UK. Let me repeat. Your living expenses for a year, so your POF includes the balance of your tuition fee and your living expenses for a year. And it has to be in the account for 28 days. You need to have this visible for 28 days. Okay. Remember that if you're going with dependents, you need to factor that money into and have the total amount as your POF. So once you factor in the POF, you need to factor in the visa fee. Okay. So, but before we get to the visa stage, there are other things you need to look out for. By looking at your test, the TB test you need to do, because for UK, you need to provide a TB test during your visa application. Now, the fee for TB test, I think it was recently increased. Yeah. So we are looking at, I'm just going to give a range. We're looking at from 60,800 to 150,000 naira, depending on your location. We have 2 locations, which is in Abuja and Lagos. So you need to factor in which location you are, or which one is closest to where you are before you even start the journey. Then you need to also factor in the amount. We are looking at 60,800 to 150,000 naira for you to get the TB test. And remember, the TB test you're going to do a TB test for every other person that is joining you if you're going with dependents. Then we also have the IHS fee. Now, IHS is a medical insurance in the UK, and the fee for this varies. So I'm going to be giving a range for this too. We're looking at 1,500 to 1,700 pounds. Okay. Remember that this fee is actually subject to changes and can increase depending on the duration of the program. So if you're going for a 2-year program, you need to factor the fee will be more than this. If you're going for a 3-year program, the fee will be more than this. If you're going for a 4-year program, you need to factor in the duration of your program when processing the IHS. Okay. But however, the fee is from 1,500 to 1,700 pounds. Please take note of all of this. Then the visa application is advised you start 3 months before. Now, I'm bringing this in because of the finances. Okay. You need to start your visa application 3 months before your resumption dates. At maximum 3 months before your resumption date. This means while making preparation to start a program. For instance, now you're going for September intake, you need to factor in if you have your finances ready, if you have your tuition fee ready, your initial deposit ready, if you have your proof of fund ready, if you have your IHS fee ready, police report, TB test fee ready before you can even start. Remember, you need to put in the time factor 3 months before resumption date. Okay, you need to put that into consideration 3 months before resumption date to plan yourself financially. However, if you have all of these documents, if you have your finances in place, then you can start earlier on, you can start later on. Okay, however, we would advise you once you reach out to us on if you are late for an application based on our experience. Okay, then let's go to the visa fee proper. Now, the general visa fee for student visa is £490. £490. That is for the visa. Now, there are other ways to process, to fasten the visa process or to get an earlier date. So we have the super priority service, we have the priority service, and we have the standard services. This is different from the visa fee. This is actually different from the visa fee. So if you're in need of these services, just know at the back of your mind that there are other fees attached to it, which could vary from £500 to £1,000. So there are people with peculiar cases that will require these services. Okay. Then, and also note that this amount is subject to change. However, once you reach out, we would give you the current fee as at when you're putting in your visa application. I also want to mention that if you're here on this live and you already have an offer, okay, with any of the UK universities, please send a DM and then we can help you continue your application process. All right. Then for another thing you need to worry about, once you've done your visa, you've gotten your visa approved, the next thing is, where will I stay when I get to the UK? Okay. And when you're going to stay, it's not going to be free. You need to pay. Then there are accommodation within the campus and outside the campus. Now, the accommodation fee is within the range of, say, £8,000. This depends on either you're going for a shared apartment, a single apartment. Okay, we're looking at £1,000 to £1,600. It depends on your taste, depends on your financial capability per month. So apart from you having these finances from here, you need to also have money to cater for yourself once you arrive in the UK, so you won't be stranded. Okay, you need to, yes, thank you, Kenny Stone. Yeah. Okay, so you need to have some amount of money. You need to have financially planned for yourself once you arrive at the UK. Yes, someone will respond to you shortly. Okay, so you need to be able to plan yourself once you are. It doesn't just end here in Nigeria, please. It doesn't just end here in Nigeria. Be able to plan yourself financially here. Plan yourself financially when you get to the UK, and that is accommodation inclusive. Also, before you arrive, you need to also factor in the flights. And this flight fee, I can't give the fee because there is a whole lot to consider for flights. However, we advise you start your application on time so you can get a cheaper flight rate. Start your application on time so that you can get cheaper flight rate. And the price of the flight varies from the dates you're going to pick and the airline you're going to use. Then in all of this, because we're talking about finance, I would like to include that students are allowed to work 20 hours per week in the UK. Now, this means while working, you can have some little funds to support yourself. But please do not depend on the 20 hours per week when arriving at the UK. Don't depend on this. You need to, like I mentioned earlier, you need to plan yourself financially before and after you arrive the UK. Okay? Before and after you arrive the UK. So if you have any question concerning the UK, please drop it in the comment section and I'll respond to it at the end of the session. So I will be moving to Canada. So one thing I would like to say before I start Canada information is that Canada is a country that requires lots of finance. You need to be financially capable. You need to be financially buoyant before thinking of Canada in this period. Now, this is due to the recent changes of in the immigration policy that has made they are actually very financially conscious right now, and they're looking at people that are financially buoyant to come into the country. So I'm going to be mentioning it, most of the financial implication you need to look out for, so you can now judge for yourself to know that Canada is a country that requires fund. Now, for the bachelor's program, the range is from 12,000 Canadian dollars to 25,000 Canadian dollars for bachelor's. 12,000 Canadian dollars to 25,000 Canadian. So I'll just take off bachelor's and rephrase it to undergraduate. Now, undergraduate could include 2 years diploma program, 3-year diploma program, 3-year bachelor's program, 4-year bachelor's program. All of them are under the undergraduate. Okay, and the tuition fee range is between 12,000 to 25,000 Canadian dollars. Then we have the postgraduate, which is the master's, the PhD, the postgraduate diploma, the postgraduate certificate program. So we're looking at the tuition fee range of 12,000 to 30,000 Canadian dollars. This is the tuition fee range. Okay, then once you've gotten your offer for this school, the next stage, just like the UK, is to pay your initial deposit. At the moment, a lot of schools in Canada are reviewing their initial deposit to become 50%. So there are some schools that used to take 12,000, they used to take 3,000, 4,000 before. Right now, they are all reviewing their tuition fee to be 50%. And we would actually strongly advise that if you're planning to go to Canada, please be rest assured that you're paying 50% of your tuition fee, or even 100%. So that's at least 50% or 100% of your tuition fee is required once your offer letter is out. Okay, and most times the deposit is most times the deposit requires that you pay it in 30 days. Most of the schools require you to pay your deposit in 30 days. So this already shows you that once you've gotten your offer, your money for your initial deposit should already be ready. Should be ready for you to pay. Okay. Then once you've paid the initial deposit, the next thing you need to factor in is the living expenses. Canada reviewed their living expenses from 10,000 Canadian dollars to 20,636 Canadian dollars per year for the principal applicant. So now the price has been reviewed to 20,636 per year for the principal applicant. Then if your applicant is going with a dependent, say for instance you're going with one dependent, you're paying 25,636 per year. If you're going with more applicants, the living expenses would increase. For each applicant you add, the living expenses is bound to increase. Okay, so we need to factor that in too. Okay, so once you're done with this, the next part is, once you factor this in, the next part is your proof of fund. Like we mentioned earlier, the proof of fund is the balance of your tuition fee and your living expenses for a year. Now, Canada requires you to have the living expenses between you should have the POF or your bank statements to read from 4 to 6 months. 4 to 6 months. However, we would strongly advise you have a 6-month bank statement. I'll repeat. Canada requires you to have a 4 to 6 month bank statement, or as your POF, you should submit a POF of 4 to 6 months, which is the balance of your tuition fee and your living expenses for a year. However, we would strongly advise you have a 6-month bank statement. Now, if you're not using a 6-month bank statement, you can then have a block account in Canada. We will discuss this later once you reach out to us. Okay, now once you've considered all of these and you're already building your bank statement, you've gotten your bank statement ready, which is for 6 months, you've paid your initial deposit. The next thing to consider, the financial implication to consider, is your visa fee. Now, for visa fee for per applicant is $150. $150 for one applicant. Then you factor in the biometrics, which is $85 for a single applicant. However, if you're going for a family of 3, you need to factor in 170 Canadian dollars as your fee, as your biometrics fee. Then the next part is your accommodation. If you're going with family, you know you can't stay in one. You need to have a bigger space. Okay, you can go with a shared apartment. You can go with a school apartment. You can go for a single room, and you can go for multiple rooms depending on the number of your family that is joining you. However, the accommodation rates in Canada, depending on the province you're going to, depending on the province you're going to, accommodation range from 1,000 Canadian dollars to say 2,000 Canadian dollars, depending on the province you're going to. This is per month. Okay. Now, afterwards, before going for your visa, you need to do an upfront medical. The upfront medical is still 60,800 to 150 thousand naira, depending on the location you're using, Abuja or Lagos. Abuja or Lagos. So that's a tuition fee. That's a fee range. Then for Canada, you need to provide a police report. The police report is between 4,000 to 70,000, depending on the police station you're getting your police report from. Then the flights also, like I mentioned earlier, depends on the time and the date. Sorry, depends on the date you pick and the airline. Depends on the date and the airline. We still advise you to process your application on time so you can have enough time left after your visa is approved to plan yourself before arriving Canada. Also, for Canada, students are allowed to work 20 hours per week. I'll still have to mention that please ensure that you have enough finance to cater for yourself here in Nigeria. Sorry, for you to plan yourself here in Nigeria before arriving Canada. I also know that the other locations here, like Ghana, we have other locations we have people from other countries. So the same thing applies to you guys. Plan yourself from your country, all the financial implications from your country before you arrive Canada. Okay, so I'm done with Canada. If you have any question, please drop it on the comment section. Drop it in the comment section. I've seen some for UK. I'm going to address them later. Thank you. So another important one is France. Yeah. So France is a country. It's Schengen. It's among the Schengen regions, and it's in Europe. Okay. So majority of the people are now interested in other countries apart from Canada, UK. Few people are interested. Few are still insisting on going to Canada, UK, and all. Okay. So if you're among the people that are interested in Europe, so we are here to discuss France. There are other countries, please take note. There are other countries that we process. However, because of the time and how lengthy this conversation is, we just streamline it to just 4 countries, and France is included. But if you have questions about others, they are just one message away. Just send us a DM and we will get it sorted out. Okay, so I'll start with the tuition fee range of schools in France. For undergraduates in entirety, we have the diploma programs, we have the bachelor's program. So for the diploma programs and bachelor's program, we're looking at tuition fee range of 7,000 to 15,000, depending on the program. The ones that are 15,000 are those cost-intensive programs. But majority of the programs are from 7,000 to 12,000 euro per year. I repeat, 7,000 to 12,000 euro per year. Okay. Then for postgraduate programs, in France is also the same tuition fee depending on the one you're going for. You can get from 10,000, you can get from 7 or 8,000 euro down to 12,000 euro per year. 7 or 8,000 euro to 12,000 euro per year. Now for France, the initial deposit is between 3,000 to 5,000 euro. 3,000 to 5,000 euro. France is not really up with 50% of the tuition fee. So this is a range of initial deposit for the schools we are partnered with. So you need to factor in that you pay 3,000 euro to 5,000 euro as initial deposit. Okay. And then also France has this I think all the schools has a flexible installment plan that can also be included in your plan. There are some schools that will give you from 2 to 3 installment plan. There are schools that gives more for the other countries. Then for France, we have schools that can give you up to 4-5 installment plan on arrival after you've paid your initial deposit. Once you arrive at the school, there are schools that give you between 2 to 4-5 installment plan. Okay. and this can be paid after 2 months after arrival. So this can help you plan yourself financially still. Okay. Now, for after you've factored all of this in, the next part you need to factor in is your living expenses in France. For France, at the moment, the living expenses is 9,600 per year. 9,600 per year is what is required to pay for your living expenses. Now, remember we discussed about POF for the first two countries. The same thing applies to France. For France, you're required to provide a 3-month bank statement. A 3-month bank statement is required for your POF. And remember, your POF should, for France, your POF should doesn't really need to include the balance of your tuition fee. What they need to see is your living expenses only. I'll repeat. For the first two countries I called, for UK and Canada, your balance of your tuition fee and your living expenses is required in your POF. However, for France, the balance of your tuition fee is not expected. All you need to provide is your living expenses for 3 months. Okay. Now, for another thing, after you factor all of this in, for France, there is a step you need to take before you go for your visa. There's a step you need to take before moving to the visa, and that is Campus France interview. Now, for Campus France interview, for them to validate your documents and then do an interview for you, this process has a financial implication, which is 50,000 naira. I repeat, for Campus France, before moving to the visa stage, you need to go through another stage which is called Campus France interview. And Campus France would have to validate your documents and then do an interview for you before you even submit your visa application. Now, this section, you need to pay a fee of 50,000 naira. Okay, and remember that all of this finances is required. Sorry. Okay, so you need to provide, the fee is 50,000 naira. So factor that in when you're trying to plan your finances to study in France. You need to also provide accommodation proof, which is the fee is between 200 to 250 euro. 200 to 250 euro for accommodation. Then for the visa fee, once you validated, the next stage is the visa fee. For each applicant, the visa fee is 80 euro. For each applicant, you're paying a visa fee of 80 euro. You're also providing an insurance. Insurance varies depending on the one you're using, and depending on the duration of your program, and also depending on your age. So the fee varies, and we're looking at from 40,000 to 60,000. Depends. It could be higher. Remember, it could be higher. So we're looking at 40,000 to 60,000 for the insurance. There are other details that I need to consider before this insurance. We would communicate that once you're processing your application. However, I'm just letting you know the major finances you need to look out for, or you need to plan for when you're looking at studying in France. Also, for the flights, like I've been saying, for the first two countries, you need to factor in, you need to look out for the dates and the airline you're using for you to get the fee. We can't give you a particular fee for that at the moment. Okay, so you just factor out the price. You can Google that and get it. Then still for France, you're allowed to work for 20 hours per week. You're allowed to work for 20 hours per week if you're interested in studying in France. Okay, so if you have questions regarding France, I'm done with France. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comment section and I'll respond to them at the end of this. Sorry. Okay, so I can see all your questions. I'll respond to them, please. Okay, so the final part is, or the final country, the last but not the least on my desk is Australia. Okay, so Australia is another unique country. However, Australia is also there is a country that you need to have enough finance before you consider. So I've mentioned two countries that I really emphasize on the finance. I'm talking about Canada, and the next one now is Australia. If you're looking at studying in this country, please be financially capable, be financially buoyant, okay, to even consider these countries. So we're talking of Australia. We're starting with I'm starting Australia now. Now Australia, just as they have discussed for the undergraduate program, we're looking at 20,000 Australian dollars to 45,000 Australian dollars. You might say, wow, this fee is high. Remember that Australian dollar is quite lesser than even Canadian dollars and US dollars. So you need to factor that into the exchange rate is lesser. However, the fee is 20,000 AUD, which is Australian dollars, to 45,000 Australian dollars. Then for masters and PhD programs, we're looking at 22,000 Australian dollars to 55 Australian dollars. So their programs are their programs are a bit high, okay, are a bit expensive for Australia. Okay, then for the initial deposit, what you need to look out for is 50% of the tuition fee. We strongly advise this. 50% of the tuition fee to 100% or full payment. Sorry, yeah, 100% is full payment. So 50% to 100% tuition fee is what is required and is what is fully recommended for Australia. And if you can notice the pattern, for Canada, we said 50% of full tuition fee for Canada. For Australia too, we are saying 50% of full tuition fee. Now, there's a reason we are saying this, okay? So you need to factor this in when you're interested in studying in this country. For UK, there are schools that you can get for £3,000, £4,000, initial deposit 4,000, 3,000, £5,000. For France, we can get school of 3,000, initial deposit, not the tuition fee, initial deposit of 3,000, 3,200, 4,000, 5,000 euro. You can get to schools with those initial deposits. But for Australia and Canada, please have your 50% tuition fee or full tuition fee if you're interested in these countries. Now, for the living expenses, okay, so for the living expenses for Australia, we are looking at, for one applicant, we're looking at 25,000 Australian dollars is required. 25,000 Australian dollars is required for living expenses if as a living expense is required for you to provide if you're looking at studying in Australia. Now, if you're going with dependents, remember that this fee I just mentioned is for the principal applicants alone. Now, if you're going with a dependent, so let's say your spouse is following you, your spouse would need to provide additional 7,000 Australian dollars for your spouse. Then for the child, you need to provide 3,000 Australian dollars for each of this child that will be accompanying you. Okay, so we are looking at 25,000 Australian dollars for the principal applicants. We're looking at 7,000 for the dependents. Then for each child that will join, we're looking at 3,000 Australian dollars. So remember, we had a conversation about the POF. Now, the POF for Australian would be the balance of your tuition fee and your living expenses for a year. So I'm getting you, for instance, I'm getting you a school of 30,000 Australian dollars. You've paid 50%, which is 15,000 Australian dollars. You need to have 15,000 Australian dollars plus, let's say you're going alone, plus 25,000 Australian dollars, and even more in your bank statement. Now, for Australia, you need to have this in the account for a period of 3 months. For Australia, you need to have this in your account for a period of 3 months. Okay, then, and if you're also going with dependents, you need to have this amount too. You need to factor in this fee or their living expenses and include them in the POF for 3 months. For Australia, you need to factor in the accommodation. Accommodation range from 450 Australian dollars to 1,700 Australian dollars per month. Okay, remember that you're going with children. If you're going with dependents, you need to get a bigger space. It also applies to all countries. Okay, going with dependents, you need to factor in the fee, the accommodation. You need to factor in the living expenses. Okay, if you're going with children, you need to factor in the schools they'll be attending. Okay, before making a decision. All right. Then for police reports, for Australia, you also need police reports. Police reports still varies from 40,000, to 70,000, depending on the police station you're using to get your police report. Then for medicals, it's still the same, 60,800 to 150,000 naira, depending on the location you're having your test, you're doing your medical test. Then for Australia, currently, as a last month, the visa fee was 710 Australian dollars. As a last month, the visa fee was 710 Australian dollars. But from July 1st, the fee increased to 1,600 Australian dollars. I'll repeat again in case you're interested and you had the previous fee in mind. The previous fee, or maybe we communicated the previous fee to you, which is 710 Australian dollars. The recent law or the rule currently from July 1st is 1,600 Australian dollars that is required. Also, for the flights, depending on the airline and the date, we'll still advise you to start your application process on time. Then students are allowed to work for 20 hours per week. Please let me know if you have any question or concern regarding any of these countries. I've been seeing lots of questions, so I'll just go back to the top. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comment section. I'll be attending to questions now, and once we are done with the question parts, we would end the live. Thank you so much for your contribution. So Miss Iva, you said, is this for USA? No, we're only discussing about 4 countries, which is the UK, France, Australia, and Canada. If you have questions regarding USA, please send us a DM and we would furnish you with those information. Maybe another live session, we will come up and discuss other countries, the financial implication of other countries. But for now, we are working on four countries for today. Okay. Okay, so Sochima, say well understood, ma. You said something about dependents. Does UK still accept dependents and children for master's program? Okay, so thank you for that question, Sochima. So for the UK, for master's program, general master's program, they don't accept dependent. Now, the dependent I was talking about are for people that are interested in or that are qualified for the research program in the UK. For research program, there are some research program in the UK that allow you to come with your dependents. There are a few of them, and there are specific requirements for you to qualify. Okay, specific requirements for you to qualify. There are a few of them, and there are other things you need to note before even applying to this program. If you're interested in this research program, interested in going with your dependent to the UK, we would advise you appropriately. Just send a DM. However, the UK does not accept dependents for now, apart from the research program. Then okay, so Damilola Victoria, he said, my question on France regarding the POF is, you said I will need to provide 3 months bank statements. I'm still kind of confused. Do I need to keep the 9,600 euro each month for 3 months? Oh, okay. So no, you don't need to keep it like each month 9,600, each month 9,600. If that's your question, no. So you need to provide as in the closing balance should be 9,600 or more. 9,600 or more for 3 months. So the 3 months bank statement should have a closing balance of 9,600 or more, not per month. Okay, or I need to be running the account for 3 months, then I put the money into the account for just. So I don't understand the second part of your question. But however, for 3 months, they need a bank statement to show 9,600, a minimum of 9,600 euro. A minimum of 9,600, it could be equivalent to Naira. You can check the current exchange rate. 9,600 minimum should be in your bank statement, should be provided as POF for you to study in France. Oh. So this second part of your question, I don't really understand. You can send a DM and then we would counsel you appropriately, please. Okay, so are there any more questions? Because this is the last question I'll be attending to today. I'm seeing here in the comment section. Are there any more questions, please? So just to round up, I said earlier, for you to start studying abroad, the first thing you need to consider after choosing your course, after choosing your preferred country, or even for you to choose your preferred country, because it still finances you used in picking your preferred country, you need to take note of the finance of that country. You need to take note of the financial implication of the entire program, okay, from you moving from Nigeria down to arriving at your desired destination. From Nigeria, from starting the program, leaving Nigeria to arriving at your preferred destination. You need to even factor in the fee. That's what they're asking you for, living expenses for a year. Factor the financial cost for 1 year. Be prepared for that so that you won't go there and then have to suffer. So this live session is to help you prepare yourself financially while you're here and when you arrive to the UK. Okay, so anyone that come through us, we do give them, we counsel them on their finances, we counsel them on the program they're going for, we counsel them on the career they will get after the programs, okay, after they're done with the program. So all of these services are available, and Nexi Concept Limited is always willing to provide them to you. We are just a DM away, like I mentioned. So just send us a DM and then we would get things started and sorted for you. I also mentioned that if you're looking at studying, please make the decision. Once you have your finances in place, please make the decision. You can still reach out to us and ask questions to plan yourself ahead. It's still fine. You can reach out to us, ask questions to plan yourself ahead on what is needed or required, especially in terms of the documents, the finances, the program, what you meet when you get over there in your desired destination. We are always available to advise you. We are always available to counsel you. Our counselors are well furnished with information on all of the countries you're interested in. And we are also there to give you advice based on the budget you have. Okay, so once you come to us and tell us that I have this particular budget and I'm looking at studying this particular course, we can give you recommendation based on the budget you have. Okay, so the conversation we have with you would help us guide you better. So I'm checking to see if there's any more question. If not, we would have to end the live at now. So in the absence of any question, okay, Kenny Stone, you mentioned that you've already sent a DM, so that's fine. Someone will respond to you and then we'll follow up from there. Thank you so much for attending this live session. Like I earlier mentioned, every Wednesday by 12 noon, we come up here to give you insightful information about studying abroad. We discuss countries in Europe, we discuss countries in Canada, Australia, USA. All of these countries, we come here and give you information on them, different information, even visa information. Okay, so always be on the lookout for our live session so you can get all the required information you need. So thank you so much for coming. Bye and have a nice day.